Hey, what's up guys? Today we're going to be talking about Sea of Stars. Now, I know this is a little bit later than it should be. I've been a little busy. Well, whatever. Anyway, let's get to it. Sea of Stars is a turn-based RPG inspired by the classics back from the 90s. It tells the story of two children of the solstice who will combine the powers of the sun and the moon to perform eclipse magic, the only force that's capable of fending off the monstrous creations of the evil alchemist known as the Fleshmancer, which is a great bad guy name, by the way. This is created by Sabotage Studios, makers of The Messenger, the 2D platformer that changed from 8-bit to 16-bit. They continue the journey of developing games that blend retro aesthetics and modern game design. This time though, instead of the kind of 2D action Metroidvania style, they changed it up to this turn-based RPG that would pay homage to those great games of the 90s like Chrono Trigger and stuff, while bringing enough new things to make it its own. They say that all of their games are in kind of a shared universe, which I don't fully understand how that works, but maybe if you were really into The Messenger, you're gonna see some things. Apparently they all kind of connect somehow. Sea of Stars was absolutely incredible. It's not perfect. There's little things in there that bug me, but as a whole project, I mean, it really was incredible what the developers were able to get out of this idea, what the nostalgia that it can invoke while still having modern game design, modern stuff that we're used to that update that kind of usability and stuff, was really incredible to me. I enjoyed it the whole way through. It was a fantastic experience. Also, if you're interested, the creator team, but the creative director guy, I can't remember his name, but he did an interview with the guys over there at Friends Per Second podcast. You can find that on Skillup's channel. And it was a really, really great interview. The guy was really likable, and instantly I felt like there was a connection there, just as far as somebody who loves the kind of games that I grew up loving, right? And so if you're interested at all, I highly recommend going and watching that interview. It was tremendous. Moving on from that, let's get into the game, okay? So this game, the story begins with the Solstice children, and you kind of pick one as your main character. That choice isn't super impactful. It doesn't change much. There's a few times during the game where your chosen of the two is locked into your party, but it's not all of the time. And once you get past a certain point, you can pretty much switch to the other child, or whatever, the other Solstice one, to lead your party. So it's not that big of a deal, so don't agonize over that. It's not gonna matter. You catch a little bit of the story starting as young children. They come in and you see a little bit of their story. You do play a little bit as they're young, and kind of go through a little bit, and then pretty quickly you move and there's kind of like a time jump, and now you are essentially graduation age. So they don't tell you the time, but you can kind of assume you're around that, I don't know, 18-ish, right? Kind of like when you graduate high school or something. But this game has dozens of, new characters and story arcs for each of them, which is awesome. It really takes you on a fantastic journey. Sometimes the story is grand in scale, this huge moments with big epic scenes or incredible spectacle or these huge moments. And sometimes it's pretty comical, and yet other times it's emotional. Sea of Stars explores classic themes of adventure and friendship, but it also is chock full of unexpected twists and turns. The characters are mostly well-crafted and personable, causing the player to engage with their story at a really consistently deep level. While this game isn't necessarily diving into the depths of super mature themes like say Chained Echoes did, it does dive into the themes that it approaches with care and consideration. It explores thoughts and emotions at an incredibly human level. I enjoyed the story very much. However, I'm gonna go into slightly spoilers here, okay? So if you don't want to see this, I'll timestamp it and jump ahead. But I'm not gonna tell the whole story. I just need you to. I just gotta talk about this real quick, okay? So here we go. Ready? Your warning's done. There is a good or true ending to this story, and I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But in order to achieve that good ending, you have to beat the game first, and then you basically gotta do all of the side stuff. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. You finish all the side stories, you gotta finish up all the character quests, all that stuff. However, you have to collect all of the shells, and that sucks. It's dumb. I don't want to do it, and so I didn't, and I watched it online. I did everything else, but I was in no mood to catch those shells. So just know that ahead of time. I did find a lot of them, but I didn't go back and get them all. Okay? Everything else is fine. Spoiler. But yeah, I mean, really enjoyed the story. The characters were top notch, especially your main three, but really probably I would say maybe main four. You get a few extras in there. I'm not going to talk about those too much because that's a lot of story spoiler stuff. But I really enjoyed the characters. Let's say that. Okay, I loved it. I thought the story was super good as a whole, but like the character moments and the interplay between the characters and the dialogue was so good, and that human level, I just really want to highlight that because these characters, even though you're in this fantastical story, they felt relatable. And I think that is probably the biggest achievement of this game, is that it felt relatable. You could connect to these characters. You could connect to their story, to their friendship. A lot of times these kind of, we'll beat the bad guys by the power of friendship kind of stuff is usually just silly and ridiculous, right? I can enjoy it, but it's just over the top. And this one, it was more nuanced than that, and it felt relatable and real and not just silly, right? And really, really good stuff. Now, let's get into some of the mechanics, right? This game is a turn-based RPG. The combat is a nuanced and modern approach with a lot of nostalgic strikes, right? You're gonna get hit with those kind of nostalgic feelings on some of that stuff if you grew up on the games of the 90s. Now, if you didn't though, there's still a lot to enjoy. You don't have to have that, which is a good thing. But it's got timed hits like Mario RPG. It's got multiple character combo attacks like Chrono Trigger. It's got boosting, which I actually don't have a good comparison for. It has this cool like strategic locks system, right? And this essentially you have to use different damage types to try and hinder or neutralize an enemy's attack or powerful move. And if you get them all while they're still charging, then you can just kind of knock it out and it won't be able to use that attack. Which is pretty cool. There are no random encounters in this game. There's no transitions to separate battlefields. There's not really a need for grinding, though you can do that if you want. The combat is fun. It's a good time. It's usually quick enough, right? So it's you're not like getting dragged on and on, though sometimes that can happen, especially if you don't know what you're doing yet. And the combat's actually more challenging than I expected, right? It has a little more pushback. There's more strategy involved than I expected at first. And it's even on normal, the game expects you to figure out its mechanics. And if you don't, you're gonna die, right? You have to use those mechanics thoughtfully. You have to plan and be strategic in your combat. I think that's a really good thing. It caused a lot of enjoyment for me. It wasn't overly difficult. I wasn't scraping my head every time getting mad, but I did have to consistently think about what I was doing, and that's good. My son started getting into it as well, and it was a little difficult for him, right? He was doing it and he was figuring it out. And every once in a while I come in and I talk to him about, show him some of the mechanics so that he would think about things differently. But as a 9-year-old, he is enjoying it. It has some range there, I think. I really did love the combat here. I have a few complaints, but they're really nitpicky. Like, sometimes there's this move that it kind of got, I don't know, famous is the wrong word, but it was making the moves online, called the Moonerang, right? And this is like, has the Mario RPG thing. So your character throws out this boomerang kind of thing, and then you have to time hit your buttons to kind of deflect it back. And as long as you keep hitting it right, it'll keep going. And there's like they have a trophy for 25 times, which I actually got pretty early on accident. And so I could never tell if I got that high again, but fun move, right? And if you get good at the timing, like you can destroy bosses with it, right? I mean, it's a cool idea, right? But sometimes, especially if you are facing more than one enemy, but even one time when you're facing one, it will set you up to fail. And what I mean by that is, to get a good counter, you want a decent distance, right? So that you have a little bit of time for it to go hit them and come back, so you can time it. Several times though, I'd go, like, say you had 3 enemies, and they would put me super close to one, and so you'd have like a long, super short, long, super short, long, super short, and I could get that at first, but it didn't take very long before it almost doesn't matter. Once it starts picking up speed, you can't get it fast enough because they're so close to you. And I had one boss that, big boss, took up the screen, and you move when, you don't just stay where you were at. Your character moves into a position to like set up for this attack, and she would move right next to the boss, and it's so close you couldn't get it. And that was dumb. I was like, it should either stay where you are, or it should have like a middle where you're a certain distance as best as possible or something. It's not a big deal, but it was annoying. The lock system that I talked about, right? So I think, and I could be wrong, but it has some RNG as to what combination of attacks it brings up, okay? I think that there are some sets, but I'm not entirely sure. I think either way, it seems like there's some randomness to it. Which is fine. I don't think that's a problem. But sometimes they'd have like, one turn and this combination of attacks that there's actually no possible way you could do in one turn. Later on, there are other things you can do with that, but that was frustrating, right? Because you feel like, my strategy, I'm constantly trying to engage with this locks system, and I can't, because I can't possibly do the thing that it's saying I need to. Now, if you hit some of it, it'll weaken the attack, but that didn't ever feel like it did much. So again, this is really nitpicky. It's not a huge deal. This game was still fun. It was still fair, I felt, but sometimes it was kind of annoying. For the most part though, combat, really good. The other thing we talk about is traversal. Now in this game, it's your Chrono Trigger-esque, okay? But they found some really good ways to make traversal engaging and fun without kind of overdoing it. So you have things, you can swim, you climb, you can vault over things, you jump over ledges, you can climb back up ledges, you get tools to kind of help you go different places, and they all really work together to make you feel almost like a platformer. It's never too much, it's never hard, it's not like, perfect timing kind of stuff. It's easy, but it just means when you're running around the world to, your next combat or to get to the story, you're always doing something. You're always hitting the button at the right time, or moving over this and, pushing X or whatever. And so it just feels like you are consistently interacting with the world. And again, it's not complicated. It's not super deep even, but it does feel good, and it's silly, but just running around like that and constantly, even if it's just X or whatever your kind of action button is, it just makes you feel more engaged than just moving around and sitting there with the stick boringly pushing it. It was really good. I thought it was a smart thing that was just little and probably not a ton of work to do, Actually, I don't know. I don't know anything about game devs, but it didn't seem like it was a huge system, right? They didn't have to put a ton of thought other than making it work. But it works well to keep you engaged outside of like combat and stuff. Through the game, you're unlocking these newer and faster ways to travel. There isn't really a fast travel system. You get faster ways to go, but there's not like I just go here. So essentially there is kind of like, without giving stuff away, which is kind of difficult, right? But there's essentially kind of like several big areas, and then inside of that there are several areas or several sections in that kind of bigger area, right? And then sometimes in each of those sections there might be separate little spots of that section. The thing is, as you get faster and faster travel, you can get to these areas really easy. You can even get to most of these sections inside those areas pretty easily, okay? However, if there is one of those little spots, those different spots, they might be named like chunks in that section. There's no way to get to those quickly. There's no way to know where those are. So for example, if I'm gonna make up names here so I don't give anything away, right? But if you have like Apple Orchard and Ugly Swamp and Library in one of those sections, but that section is called, I don't know, Froggy Gulch or something stupid. I don't know, guys. I'm trying here, okay? And so on the map, all you see is Froggy Gulch. But if I have something I have this collectible I need to get in, the Apple Orchard. I don't remember where that is. Well, tough. You just have to try every section you can until you figure it out. That was frustrating to me. That's mostly endgame stuff. You won't care for most of the playthrough, but there's a few times where it's like, oh, I know they want me to go to this spot. I don't remember where that was. And so you get to each area and I'm looking at each section and none of them say that name. And I'm like, I don't understand, where is that? And sure enough, it's one of these little spots inside a section that just wasn't named. And so, especially endgame, when I'm trying to wrap all of these stories up, that was annoying. I do wish there was some kind of fast travel system, personally. Probably lots of people out there disagree with me, but that was just something for me that, I've done your game. I'm basically at the end. I'm just trying to wrap up all this little stuff, and it's kind of pushing against me, not because it's hard, but just because I can't find the place that I need to get to. That sucked, in my opinion. But again, other than that, traversal was awesome. All the way through. It kept getting better, it kept moving up, kept getting faster, and that was all good. I loved that. The world is really good. Really good. They have really cool different areas and stuff. Lots of things I would love to talk about that I just don't want to give away or spoil. But they have little things you can engage with, right? There's fishing, which is actually really fun. There's cooking, which isn't amazing, but it's good thing to interact with, really cool. And they have this cool like slideshow thing where they kind of show it getting put together, which is a cool touch because it could have just been a menu and they didn't do that. It was fun. You can sail around on a boat. They have like a mini game, right? It's the tabletop game called Wheels, and that was really good. It's a little overcomplicated at times and kind of difficult to get into. They have info on it, right? You can go into your help and look at the rules of the game. I didn't feel like that worked very well. So if you're having trouble with Wheels, I have a video right here. Am I pointing in the right direction? I don't know, one up above, right? I got a video there explaining the basics of the game. So if you need help, there it is. It was pretty fun. I ended up enjoying Wheels after a little while and kind of figuring it out, but it did take me a bit to figure it out. So that was kind of a bummer. But yeah, fishing was a good mini game. Little things that came along later that made it even better. There are things that make it easier, okay? I didn't get those until I basically finished. And that was okay. There are some fish that kind of felt like they were cheating a little bit, and that sucks. But again, they do have things in the game to help you make that easier. They're not cheating or anything like that. They're in the game to make that easier. I just didn't know about it until I basically finished. So yeah, if you find that earlier, you won't have that problem. The level up mechanic in this game, it looked cool, it felt cool, But really, the more I engaged with it, I felt like it didn't really matter. So essentially what happens is I love the way they did this, by the way. So experience is in a pool. So it's like, say you need 5,000 experience to level up. That's for everybody. The in party, out party, whatever. You get 5,000 experience, everybody levels up all at the same time. I thought that was actually a really good mechanic. It makes everybody go together. There's no, like, I don't have to switch party members and grind to get them caught up. Like, we just all kind of move together. That was good. I really did enjoy that quite a bit. But when you level up, you get to pick like one of 3 or 4 stats that you're going to increase extra. So you have already like stats that you're increasing each character just on the level up, right? That you didn't do anything about. That's just the game is giving them this level up. And then you get to choose what out of these other 3 or 4s. They might be one that is already getting a boost and you're gonna boost it even more. It might be one that's not getting anything that level up and you're gonna try to boost that. But it never felt super impactful, if I'm honest. In the very beginning a little bit maybe, right? Especially like, say it's attack, you only have 7 attack, and you got 2 added to it with your level, and you added 3 or 2 or 3 whatever because you chose that for your level up. That's a noticeable difference. But it didn't take very long before it didn't seem to do anything. You didn't see a big change in your numbers, you didn't feel a big change in combat. And so that was kind of a bummer, right? You're like, oh, I wish there's a little more to it. And because those stats, I don't know if they're random or if they are kind of handpicked or how that works, but often I didn't have the choice of the thing I wanted for that character. So then you're just kind of like, oh, well, I guess I'll just do this then, right? And so that was a bummer. Like, I wish there was maybe a little more agency, like even if it would just let me pick the one I wanted and level that up, like whatever that was, that probably would have felt a little bit better, but it wasn't bad. So there were some kind of odd things in here too. Like they have a nod to the YouTuber Gerard the Completionist. Now, I think he's awesome, right? He's seems like a good guy. His channel is cool. He's been around a long time. And I know that based on, I told you guys that Friends Per Second podcast where they had an interview, there's a friendship there. And so I get that, but it just kind of felt out of place, you know? It was just kind of a weird spot. You're like, why is he in here? That's weird. At the same time, I imagine that would feel really cool, right? You're friends with a game dev, and you have a channel like this one, and they throw you in. Like, if someone did that for me, I wouldn't complain. Like, I'd be pretty stoked, right? So that's cool, but it still did feel, it was kind of weird. But look, guys, this game was really good, and what I really want you to get out of this, right, is one, you got to play it. There's so many like secrets and twists in the story and character interactions and stuff that I can't get into without spoiling the game, and I'm not gonna do that. But that also takes away a lot of the charm of this game for me, at least in telling you about it. It's so good. It's so good. There are like, yes, I know I've talked about some things that kind of bugged me, and they are there and they do kind of bug me, right? But the story this game tells, in particular with the character interactions and the friendship for them and how they deal with things and the way they approach things, was so good. It was so relatable. Like I said earlier, it felt human. They did such a good job of making this feel real, feel alive. These characters felt like people with feelings and emotions and enjoyment and joy and all, you know, experiencing this fantastical thing that's happening and going on around them. And man, it was so good. It was so good. And I love that I can very easily recommend this to you and your kids, or you can play it with your kids if you have more. You can enjoy it without, you got no kids. You can play it by yourself and enjoy it. It is just a good story. Characters that you care about and gameplay systems that are fun to engage with. Also, by the way, if you are, you know, maybe having a hard time, or you have kids that want to play, they have these things that you can get that are kind of like cheats in the game that you can put on to make it easier. And so like for my son, as he was having trouble, I helped him a little bit to get enough money. You buy these things in shops and then it just makes the game easier for you. So that's an option, right? They really thought this through. Now this game is super available, okay? It's on Game Pass, it's on PlayStation Plus. I think it's extra tier and above, but whatever. And in this stacked year of RPGs, I mean, so many incredible games, incredible RPGs out this year. I strongly recommend, highly recommend, that you put aside a good 30 hours or so and play this one. It is really worth your time. All right, guys. Well, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, when you hit the like button, it means a lot to me and it does a lot to help the channel. It's, you know, kind of the YouTube thing. That like button means a lot, right? And if you're new, think about subscribing. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you all more than you know. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.